For decades, these crimes haunted investigators, devastated families, and left communities on edge. But in 2024, advances in DNA technology finally cracked the code. Today, we're uncovering 3 chilling cases where science brought long-awaited justice and revealing the shocking stories behind each one. From an unsolved murder dating back to the 1970s to a murder that baffled experts for over 20 years, these cases prove that no matter how much time has passed, the truth has a way of coming to light. Okay, now let's get into our first story. May 2nd, 2001, started like any other day for Leslie Preer, a 49-year-old wife and mother living in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Her quiet, tree-lined neighborhood was known for its safety and serenity. But that morning, the tranquility was shattered. Inside her own home, Leslie became the victim of a brutal and senseless murder, one that would haunt her family and investigators for over 2 decades. Leslie was attacked in the foyer of her home. Investigators found clear evidence of a struggle. Her arms were bruised and blood was discovered under her fingernails. Her injuries were catastrophic, multiple blunt force trauma wounds and signs of manual strangulation. The medical examiner later noted that her head had been violently battered against the sharp corners of the molding and floor in the foyer, but the brutality didn't stop there. The killer moved her lifeless body to the shower of her primary bedroom. Evidence showed attempts to wash away blood, likely to conceal the crime. Despite efforts to clean up, luminol tests revealed traces of blood throughout the house, on door frames, in the kitchen sink, and even in a trash can. Yet no witnesses came forward. Neighbors hadn't seen or heard anything suspicious that morning. With no clear suspects and limited forensic capabilities at the time, the case quickly went cold. For years, Leslie's family sought answers, but none came. Then, in 2022, advancements in DNA technology breathed new life into the investigation. Detectives submitted DNA collected from the crime scene to Othram, a lab specializing in forensic genetic genealogy. The lab developed a comprehensive DNA profile, which was then uploaded to Family Tree DNA, a consumer genealogy database that allows law enforcement access for violent crime investigations. This process led investigators to a crucial lead, a surname, Glygor. The name matched a tip from the original case file. Back in 2001, Leslie's daughter, Lauren, had dated a man named Eugene Theodore Glygor for 5 years. The relationship had ended several years before Leslie's death, and Eugene had faded from their lives, or so they thought. Investigators dug into Eugene Glygor's past. Now 44 years old and living in Washington, D.C., he had a criminal record for offenses like theft and DUI, but nothing violent. Crucially, his DNA had never been entered into CODIS, the National Law Enforcement Database. This meant investigators needed a direct sample to confirm their suspicions. On June 9, 2024, detectives observed Glygor at Dulles International Airport. They watched as he discarded a water bottle, seizing the opportunity to collect his DNA. When the results came back, the match was undeniable. The blood found under Leslie Preer's fingernails, the evidence of a desperate struggle, belonged to Glygor. On June 18, 2024, 23 years after Leslie Preer's murder, police arrested Eugene Glygor and charged him with first-degree murder. In the arrest warrant, investigators outlined how Leslie had fought for her life, injuring her attacker in the process and leaving behind the critical evidence that would eventually solve her case. But one question remains unanswered. Why? Leslie's daughter, Lauren, told reporters that her mother had always liked Eugene, even during his relationship with Lauren. He had been a familiar presence in their family, joining them on outings and vacations. Authorities have not identified a clear motive for the killing. Eugene Glygor remains in custody, denied bond, and awaiting trial. For Leslie's family, his arrest is a bittersweet moment. While it brings closure to years of uncertainty, it also reopens wounds that never fully healed. Thanks to advancements in DNA technology, Leslie Preer's killer was finally brought to justice, proving that even the smallest trace of evidence can speak volumes, no matter how much time has passed. The next case starts. In the summer of 1980, when a tragic discovery rocked Ada County, Idaho, the body of 25-year-old Mary Tracy was found near an irrigation ditch, her life brutally taken in a horrific act of violence. For over 4 decades, her murder remained a haunting mystery. But thanks to the determination of her daughter and the relentless work of cold case investigators, the truth has finally come to light. Mary Tracy was a young woman navigating the challenges of a crumbling marriage and financial hardship. On June 24, 1980, she was last seen in the lively but seedy area of Chinden Boulevard, known for its bars, nightclubs, and adult bookstores. 2 days later, her lifeless body was discovered by a highway crew just off Highway 55. The scene told a horrifying story. Mary had been stabbed 11 times. 3 of those wounds were defensive. Her body also bore the marks of blunt force trauma to the back of her head. The fatal wound was a stab to the heart. Police noted strange details: a 1967 newspaper stuck to one side of her face and a bloody fingerprint on her back. Yet these clues offered no immediate answers. Mary's murder shocked the community, but despite the efforts of law enforcement, the case quickly went cold. With little evidence and no solid leads, the brutal crime was shelved, leaving Mary's daughter and family without closure. Fast forward to August 2023. Mary's daughter, now grown, pushed the Ada County Sheriff's Office to reopen the case. The file was a mess, a tangle of interview notes, transcripts, and scattered evidence, but cold case investigator Tim Cooper was undeterred. As Cooper meticulously combed through the chaos, a name surfaced: Charles Strain. Back in 1980, an informant named Jose had told police that Strain confessed to stabbing a woman and leaving her body off Highway 55. The details matched Mary's murder, but the lead wasn't pursued. When Cooper revisited the informant's audio recording, discrepancies with the written report emerged. The confession had taken place at 11 p.m., not 11 a.m., and Strain had specified Highway 55. These overlooked details suddenly made Strain the prime suspect. In 1980, Charles Strain had a criminal record, mostly for robberies, but his crimes escalated. In 1981, he kidnapped his 10-year-old daughter and fled to Arizona, telling her that her mother had died in a car crash. In 1986, Strain was convicted of murdering his 16-year-old stepdaughter, Deanna Dean, who had gone missing during a motorcycle trip. Her skeletal remains were found in a Utah ravine, a gunshot wound to her head. When questioned about Mary Tracy's murder, Strain denied knowing her or anything about the crime. He lived next to the Hi-Ho Club in 1980, where Mary was last seen, but no hard evidence tied him to her death, until now. In a stroke of luck, the medical examiner still had a blood sample from Strain's autopsy. Strain had died in prison in 2007, but this piece of evidence would become the key to solving the mystery. Cooper submitted Strain's blood sample along with Mary Tracy's 1980 rape kit to the Idaho State Laboratory. The result was conclusive. Strain's DNA was a match. With this breakthrough, the Ada County Sheriff's Office officially closed Mary Tracy's case in late 2023. For Mary's daughter, it was an answer she had waited 43 years to hear. Though justice came too late for Charles Strain to face a courtroom, the truth finally emerged. The case of Mary Tracy is a haunting reminder of the importance of persistence, both from the families of victims and from those who refuse to let the past remain unsolved. The final case starts in February of 1974, when Mary Kay Schlais, a 25-year-old aspiring artist, was filled with excitement. She was on her way to an art show in Chicago, hitchhiking from Minneapolis to pursue her passion. But Mary would never make it to her destination. Her lifeless body was discovered on a rural Wisconsin road, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. For nearly 50 years, her murder remained unsolved. Until now. Mary's journey began like any other for a young artist chasing her dreams. Friends and family described her as vibrant, creative, and kind-hearted. But on February 15, 1974, her story came to a tragic end. Mary's body was found near an intersection in Springbrook, Wisconsin. She had been brutally murdered. The initial investigation revealed Mary had been picked up while hitchhiking. Her autopsy confirmed she was stabbed multiple times in what authorities described as a vicious and personal attack. Despite their efforts, police couldn't identify her killer. Years passed and leads grew colder, frustrating generations of investigators. As decades went by, the case haunted law enforcement in Dunn County. Officers re-examined evidence, followed up on new tips, and conducted countless interviews. Yet, every lead seemed to end in the same place: nowhere. But behind the scenes, technology was advancing, offering hope for even the coldest of cases. In recent years, Dunn County investigators turned to an emerging tool: genetic genealogy. This revolutionary method combines DNA analysis with traditional genealogical research to identify suspects through their family trees. Partnering with a team at Ramapo College in New Jersey, investigators worked tirelessly to analyze decades-old evidence. Their efforts paid off. In 2024, nearly 50 years after Mary's death, the team identified a suspect, 84-year-old John Miller of Owatonna, Minnesota. Miller had lived with a dark secret for half a century. When confronted by detectives, he admitted to killing Mary. "This is a huge victory for our agency," said Dunn County Sheriff Kevin Bigd. "For decades, this case haunted our community. Thanks to genetic genealogy, we finally have answers." Miller's confession closed the chapter on one of Wisconsin's most persistent mysteries. But his capture wasn't without challenges. Investigators discovered that Miller had been adopted, complicating their efforts to trace his family lineage. Despite this curveball, the team persevered, unraveling the truth piece by piece. For Mary's family, the news was bittersweet. After decades of heartbreak and uncertainty, they finally knew who took Mary from them. Investigators shared that the family expressed relief and gratitude for the years of work that went into solving her case. As for Miller, Sheriff Bigd noted that he seemed calm when he confessed. "I believe it's got to even be a relief for him after 50 years of living with this," Bigd said. "You would think anyone with a conscience, it would weigh on them." These three stories remind us of the resilience of those who seek justice and the power of modern technology, which brings long-buried truths to light. For the detectives who spent their careers chasing leads, the families who waited for answers, and even for those who carried the weight of their crimes, these cases prove that time may pass, but justice has no expiration date. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos of true crime cases like this, enduring mysteries, and more, then please subscribe to my channel, The Midnight Files. I have a lot of creepy videos for you to binge, and I usually upload a new video a few times a week. Until next time, please stay safe out there, and as always, stay curious.